This is your Pain Game podcast, where we talk about the game of living in and with chronic pain and trauma, getting to the heart of how to heal. I am your host, Lyndsay Soprano. On this show, I plan on discussing with doctors, chronic pain patients, holistic practitioners, loved ones, and anybody that is interested in having their voice heard in the chronic pain and trauma world that we live in. So for those of you guys that have known me for my whole entire life, or for those of you who have been listening to this show, I am allergic to the word sleep. Mostly because I don't even know what this word means. It's fairly foreign. I have been an insomniac since I was 9 years old, like legit insomniac. It's been one of my largest challenges and lifelong struggles. And it's sad, right? Like it's sleep, guys. And the fact that I show up the way that I do with most nights suffering from now physical pain is nothing short of a miracle on days that I wake up and look and feel the way that I do, even though inside I'm absolutely exhausted and I feel like I'm hanging on by a thread. And, but those sleep issues started before my diagnosis, right? So now I just have this other layer, which is a fairly decent layer of issues with me sleeping. And we know that a lot of it is probably stems from trauma and abuse, as you guys know, anxiety. And when putting this together, I was thinking about another sleep issue that I have, or a component to my sleep, is safety. And now you couple that with pain, that safety part of me from the years of abuse and trauma. Well, it's scary going to bed because you're not necessarily sure if you can get away. Should a burglar come into your home and into your house? I can't run. So now I've coupled pain and safety issues. So it's all just kind of mushed together in this big rubber band ball, and I can't get it unwound, But we need the sleep. And so living in pain or not, sleep is crucial to our ability to focus, to function, and to thrive. And today we're going to deep dive into some strategies about how we can get us to sleep. And it's going to be some hard work. I'm up for the challenge accepted. And I hope you guys are too, because we need to retrain our brains to allow us to let go and embrace the power of sleep, the healing power of sleep, right? So my guest today is going to talk to us today about some solutions to help us fix our sleep issues, our patterns, and also our narratives around a good night's sleep. Because for me, every time I'm like, I'm not going to be able to sleep. Well, of course you're not going to be able to sleep because all you do is tell yourself you're not going to be able to sleep. So changing those narratives, right? We're going to cover overcoming chronic pain and stress, insomnia, and trauma by working with the brain, how chronic pain originates from neural pathways in the brain, and how they're connected to our sleep experience. Like I mentioned, strategies and tools to help us rock us to sleep again. Gosh, I wish my guest was here every night to just rock me to sleep. That would be awesome. And then we're going to chit chat with her about her personal experience with chronic pain and her mission to help as many people as she can to get better sleep, heal, and reduce the symptoms of trauma. I need a nap after even saying all of that. So let's talk about it. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you today my guest, Annie Miller. We made it, woman.
Hey, I'm so glad to be talking to you.
Annie is a licensed psychotherapist in private practice in the DC area and the owner and founder of DC Metro Sleep and Psychotherapy. She received her BA from the University of Pennsylvania and her MSW, is that funny? MSW from the University of Chicago. She is also a licensed clinical social worker in Maryland, the District of Columbia, and Virginia, has training from the University of Pennsylvania in CBT-I, which we're going to get into, and also trained in EMDR and pain reprocessing therapy. So I don't know who I could have gotten better for us today, but she is the real deal. So I'm rolling out the red carpet for you, babe. And I'd like to start talking about your personal experiences with chronic pain and what led you to get into the world of sleep and helping us all get back to sleep. And let's take it from there.
Yeah. So I come from a family of everyone is poor sleepers. Like historically, everyone has problems with sleep. There's this joke that my sister used to sleep on the floor of my parents' bedroom every night because she was too scared and too much of an insomniac to sleep in her own room. So this was kind of built into the structure of my family is sleep problems. my journey really with chronic pain started as a teenager. I started having, headaches, neck pain, that whole issue, but also sleep issues that went beyond just insomnia. I was having, excessive fatigue, all kinds of strange sleep issues, sleep paralysis, stuff like that,
Sleep
you don't,
paralysis.
mhm,
Great.
yeah.
Give me another thing to worry about when I go to bed. Oh my gosh.
Basically just manifestations of stress.
Okay. Yeah.
So that really started as a teen, but the chronic pain issue was a big problem. Headaches, I would say like people call chronic daily headache or chronic daily migraine was such a big issue. I mean, I did everything. So I started down the whole medical path of going from doctor to doctor. You know the drill.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, the know this drill, everything out there, right? You try everything. And I still had this issue even after I became a therapist. So just because you become a therapist doesn't mean you all of a sudden understand how this all works. It took me a really long time. There was a therapist who introduced me to the concept of the brain causing physical symptoms. And it wasn't immediate, but it started to sink in for me and started to learn more and more about it, learn more about neuroscience and sleep. And it kind of just unraveled this whole world for me of, oh, you can actually have physical symptoms because of what your brain is doing and how your brain's behaving. And so all this led to, I took some training courses in CBT for insomnia, and I started really practicing it and doing supervision in it. And then that really changed like therapy for me because I started seeing the people that I was working with get better and like improve things quickly, not just talk therapy. Because I started out as a talk therapist and I really love talk therapy. There's a real benefit to talking to someone and really uncovering and expressing and learning about your emotions. But I think this was different. So the way I do therapy when it comes to sleep is there's data involved. There's spreadsheets, which I'm not great at spreadsheets, but I've had to learn.
I'm
And
allergic to Excel, so I totally understand. But I'm
I
a
know
data
the
junkie,
feeling.
though. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I saw progress quickly and I felt like, oh my gosh, I have this power. I can help people really get better. And so that really changed therapy for me. I wanted to really learn these evidence-based treatments where people can really honestly truly get better. And so that's kind of the basis of my story.
Well, I love that you've experienced, well, I don't love it for you, but I love that you didn't just become a therapist and just dealt with people that have had sleep and insomnia and chronic pain, that you've also dealt with it in your own personal life, because there's definitely an element of, if you've been through it, you can certainly help others in a much more productive way than if you hadn't. If somebody is not sleep deprived, they do not understand what I go through on the day to day. It's not even a chance. And just so for some people that may not know, CBT stands for cognitive behavioral therapy. And there is an I at the end of what she does, CBT-I, which stands for insomnia. And she's going to get into that. But man, the roles that our busy chronic stress world that we live in play into our sleep. And as I mentioned on our meet and greet, we've got in my family full of insomniacs as well. We call it
Really?
BBD.
Yeah.
Yes, we call it BBD, the busy brain disorder. That it keep the narratives in our head are going on and on and on and on and on. And for me, it's been people pleasing or anxiety, social anxiety, which sounds strange because everybody thinks I'm just like social butterfly. I'm actually scared to death of going out in big crowds of people. I don't really like it. I don't like going to the supermarket. I'm like, just no, I'm good. But the sleep side of things, it's unbelievable how crucial it is to our day-to-day life and our well-being. And it also leads to chronic pain issues and the difference within chronic pain and sleep. So can you talk a little bit about why that's a little different for people that live in chronic pain and or both coupled with trauma? Why is it so much harder for us to get to sleep besides the obvious we're in pain?
Yeah. You know, I think pain keeps us awake, but pain also activates the fight or flight system in the brain more. So you're generally just more activated and, there's more cortisol, more adrenaline. I find that people who have chronic pain tend to have like more unusual sleep schedules. So like, people will get like a second wind at night. So,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Unfortunately, I do. I'm like, wow, I'm on my 8th wind for the day.
Yeah.
And it's midnight. Great.
Yeah. And it's these kind of cycles, right? Of like, kind of a spike and then a crash. And
Yeah.
I think it's more common with, when you're dealing with chronic pain and with trauma because of the way the brain's activated. It makes it harder to have like, the ability to relax and rest. That being said, I think a lot of this stuff can still help no matter what. But yes, I do, it is harder. There are unique challenges when it comes to trauma and pain.
So how do you work with people like myself? I'm the guinea pig for every episode on this show. So how does it work for people like myself who have dealt with unfortunate traumatic events, some of which we discussed, some of which we haven't, but my listeners know a lot about some of them. How do we deal with people like Lyndsay? I mean, I know I'm a lot. I know I'm a lot. Everybody knows I'm a lot. But how do we take on sleep with people that live with chronic pain and have trauma? What are you doing for us with your therapies? Because you've got a couple different things that you do.
So I would start with the CBT for insomnia because it's a short-term therapy. And so, we typically say, now everyone's different, but we typically say 6 to 8 sessions. And it's a very structured approach. Research shows that it's 70 to 80% effective, which is a really high number.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
Sometimes, CBT-I just on its own can have some impacts on chronic pain in a positive way. So it can help with this stuff. In general, if you're more relaxed, if you're sleeping better, pain is, less of a problem. So I start with CBT-I just because it is getting in a good sleep pattern, getting that out of the way first, and then moving on to other types of treatments is, I think, the way to go. That's my method. And that's how I learned it. And let's see what's left, right? Like kind of check that box.
Sure. Okay. I like
and
that
then
approach.
see what's left. Yeah.
So when you do CBT, because all of us that have been in any form of psychotherapy, behavioral therapy, cognitive CBT, however you guys want to think about it, we're sitting down and we're talking with somebody about the shit that's going on in our brain. Let's be real. That's what we're doing. Talking about our past experience. We're talking about our life experiences right now, what we're scared of in the future, and all of these things. So can you explain what goes on in CBT-I? Because I think that all of us might be thinking like, I'm just laying on the couch like I normally do. So what does the I actually mean? What is that? Because you said that it's challenging. It is hard work. Like I said at the beginning, challenge accepted. I'm not afraid of hard work. That is something that has never been an issue with me. But what I've learned on my journey through chronic pain and dealing with stress and anxiety and all of these things, and now and sleep, of course, is that I never really had the opportunity for somebody to actually truly believe that I was ever going to be okay. And so I think that when you've experienced these negative experiences with health practitioners over the years, living in chronic pain, I mean, even starting from a young little girl, such negative messages and narratives were sent to me about all the things I was doing wrong at such a young age. And now I'm older and I feel like I'm still that little girl that was doing all the things wrong. And that's one of the reasons I can't sleep. So can you give us a rundown of a little bit about what CBT-I is? Because I think that's a big question for me as well, especially with 80% effective. Like, I'm in.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sorry to hear that you've had that experience with feeling like you did everything wrong because, yeah, I think, the power our brain has to learn negative habits, but also to unlearn, right? So that's really there. But yeah, so CBTI, so what it involves when I meet with someone, get their history, learn about, their patterns and, what sleep's been like. And we kind of identify, usually there's, the factors that make it more likely that you're going to have insomnia. And we talk about that, but mostly it's not really talking about the past because what we're focusing on is habits and thoughts now, right? What are you doing now that is contributing to this problem?
Ah,
So I start by having them keep a sleep diary, and this is have specific questions that I ask and a certain way that I set it up. So they'll come in and say, "Yeah, I've been doing that myself, but this is different." So we do it a certain way, and we have a set of data that we look at, and we take it and we take a look at it and see what stands out to me in terms of their habits, what might be interfering, what things that I notice right away. There's kind of a general set of rules from the CBT-I standpoint that I will tell people to do this, do that, right? And I can go through them with you.
yes.
Um, and then I personalize it by looking at what their information says and say, this is what I think applies to you the most. Here's a schedule that would work well for you. And then it's up to them to do the things. And then we meet and we talk through it and we troubleshoot these things and what's hard, what's not hard, what are you running into that's a problem? And we work on it. That's how the therapy kind of evolves. So it's not the typical therapy. It's not talking about, the problems that led to sleep. It's doing things now in the moment that can actually help.
And I like that because when it comes to talk therapy for me, like I've got a therapist and he's awesome and he listens to the show. So hi. He is incredible and he helped me get to a really, really good place that I needed to kind of like take a step back from some of the talk because I felt like I was just repeating the same shit over and over and over again. And I was getting frustrated with, I'm like, you know what? I'm still talking about the same stuff. Like I have to work on why I'm still talking about the same stuff, but I'm spending money talking about the same stuff. And so I like that it's like what's happening now and forward versus what happened in the past. Because I know all of the past stuff is important to clearing and dealing and letting go and all of that. I've been working like nobody's business on that side of it. I haven't spent an iota of time on dealing with why I'm not sleeping even though I've got my ideas as to why some of the reasons I'm not, obviously we can separate chronic pain because we know that that's part of it. That's an element that we're working through. But what else is there that's going on in my noodle that it's like, that's what we say all the time. You're noodling, honey. What are you noodling about? Noodling about everything. Everything on the planet, things that I should not be noodling about is what is happening right now. And that's that busy brain disorder part, right? I'm sitting there thinking about all the things I didn't do today or all the things I did do and how I could have done them better. And all my friends or family members or all these people that I need to be doing things better for them. And the only person that I'm not thinking about is me.
Yeah. So there's one strategy that I like that can help with just that piece of it, the noodling, as you're calling it.
Yeah.
This is a little separate from the set of CBT-I rules, but let's see if you can implement it and see how it goes for you. I want to know. I want you to tell me how this goes. But so the idea with this one is to schedule in worry time. So on your calendar, have you heard this before?
No. Did you see my face? It was a big eyeballs and a big open mouth. Because what? Yes, let's schedule worry time. Because right now it's 24 hours a day.
Right. So we want to try to work on compartmentalizing it, right? Because the brain worries because it's searching out and trying to prepare you for threats, right? It's saying, "Hey, this is an emergency. The thing you didn't do for that person, that's an emergency. Pay attention to this now," right? But we know it's not actually an emergency. So what I hear in what you're saying is the worries are a lot around what you didn't do for other people, people you let down, right? That typical playlist of your worries. I would schedule in a time in the afternoon away from bedtime, sometime in the afternoon. It doesn't really matter when. Later in the day helps because you've had the whole day to think about it and, build up more worries.
And I also I start having like the Sunday scaries on the daily though, about 3 or 4 o'clock. That's when I start to ramp up when I'm like, oh God, these are all the things that I didn't get accomplished today. And these are the things that I need to stay up until midnight to do. And everybody in my life that works with me and knows me knows that, oh, well, Lyndsay's just going to text me that she's sitting here working and she's doing this. And, I mean, everybody that's close to me and dear to me knows this about me, but that's exactly what
That's your
happens.
time.
Yep. Wow.
So
Okay.
let yourself have that time. So between 3 and 4, then write. So I suggest like writing these things out, like actually spending some time. What are these things that you're worried about? List them, work through them, spend, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever you need to write them out, work through them. But then the goal is to let that go and move on with your day. That doesn't mean you have to stop working or never do it, right? What that means is this is your time to worry about it. And if at midnight, your brain is saying, oh no, that thing, right? What we want to do is say, that's not for right now. That's for 4 p.m. tomorrow. And I can handle that then. I have this whole time set out for working. And this is a practice. It's not going to happen right away, but eventually your brain can start to say, that's when I worry, not 11 p.m., midnight. So, but you have to kind of work at it and make it a daily practice and kind of also along the way, gently remind yourself, hey, this is not an emergency, right? I can get to this. If I didn't do that thing, no one's going to die. It's okay. I'm going to be okay, right? I can handle that. Like self-soothing around the to-dos is important too, because there's a certain reality. It's not life or death. Those things, I don't think they are, right?
Yeah. And, it's so interesting, this conversation, because there's a gal that I work with who I've had a challenging relationship working with her. I absolutely love her to death, like friend wise, but working with her was a challenge because she wasn't as deadline oriented as I am. And she doesn't give as many shits about stuff that I give shits about, for lack of a better term. I speak so eloquently on this show sometimes. But and it got to a point where we were like fighting about it because I was up her butt all the time about not doing things the way Lyndsay wanted them to be done. Right. And then she was like, Lyndsay, you give too much care about things that don't really matter. Big picture. And she helped me out and we went through all that stuff and everything is great. And in fact, I learned so much from her. Now she's like my don't give a shit coach to a certain extent. Cause now I'm like, wow, I took it out of her playbook to not be as worried about some things. And she helped me 2 nights ago. I was like, I'm not going to hit this deadline. She goes, so?
Right. Play
What
it
a
out.
simple
So what?
word.
So what if I,
So what? And she's like, there are far
Mhm.
bigger things for you to be worried about. And this isn't one of them. And I love that. And thank you if you're listening to this show, because I've learned so much from you. But, it's one of those things where the people pleasing in me, which comes from trauma, which stems from so many things in my childhood, in adulthood, it's so challenging to work through those because now it's like, oh, well, I'm a grown up and I really have to make sure that I've got my best together and I'm doing everything that I need to for everybody and anything on the planet whenever they ask me to, no matter what time of the day it is. Lyndsay will always be here for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the reason why I think I'm sick.
Well, because your brain can't turn off, right? It can't let go
Never.
and just say,
Yeah.
not right now.
No.
And so, that actually leads me to another, like one of the CBT-I strategies. So the scheduling worry time is a little separate, but there's another one that I think could benefit you, which is to make sure to give yourself wind down time before you go to bed. And because you were saying, I'm going to have to do this and work till midnight, right? And I know that is a really strong kind of urge for a lot of people. Get it all done now, get it all done. And when we do that, so if you think about this, if you're working till midnight and then you expect at midnight you're going to be sleepy, right? You're asking your brain to do this complete shift. Go, 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 be on, and then stop. And how's it going to do that?
Yes,
Right.
Doesn't.
And then you get frustrated and you're lying there like, well, why isn't this working? Right? Because you haven't given it a transition time to not do anything. So this should be kind of a non-negotiable for a lot of people, especially when you have BBD, is 1 to 2 hours, which may sound like a lot.
Yes, it sounds like a lot.
People will ask, well, what do I do during wind down time? Does it have to be like, dark and silent? No, because sometimes that can be anxiety provoking for people, actually.
100%. Yeah.
I think watching TV during wind down time is great if you like TV. Some people don't like TV, right? my suggestion for that is nothing like I wouldn't watch a horror movie during your wind down time, right? I would probably be mindful of like news, because news can be very, very negative and it can get us really worried and thinking about a lot of things. So, like, people like to watch the Great British Baking Show, right? Or nature documentaries, anything. It doesn't really matter what it is. Comedies, a lot of people will say, I watch old episodes of The Office. Great, do that. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're not doing six things at once. Like if you're working on your to-do list while watching TV, while, trimming your dog's toenails. I don't know.
That's a funny thing to say, but I feel like my sister is totally that person that would be trimming dog's nails and doing a million other things. I am for sure. My laptop leaves my studio and it follows me to what I call my couch office or my bed office. And I take it with me everywhere I go. And then I'll turn on like Netflix or whatever, and I want to binge a show or what have you. And I'm working at the same time. And then I've got my text and I'm on a Mac. So my text is coming in on my computer and I've got all of my alerts that are coming in from people that work with me or work for me or not for me. Everybody works with me. And that is what happens every single night in this household. It's every night.
But what do you think that's doing?
It's making me batshit crazy is what it's doing. And also not the greatest work I've done either. So what's happening is I'm blending all of these different spaces and times together to try to accomplish as much as I can in a day, because I used to be far more focused and able to get so much more done before this whole chronic pain baloney came into my world. And it's really affecting me, but I'm only adding to it by doing these kinds of things that you're talking about. I am, because it stems back to my people pleasing. I always want to make sure that I am on top of everything at every moment, and it's exhausting to the point that I can't sleep.
Right, and your brain is doing too much, right? And so what would it be like to just watch Netflix and that's it? Just
I don't know.
For an hour, 1 hour, right? If more is okay too, right? But it's almost, we've gotten to the point where there's so many options for what to do that we can't just do one thing. But just, relax, let yourself kind of actually watch the show fully, right? And enjoy it, laugh, smile and, breathe a little bit and give yourself it's like a zone out time where you can zone out, where you're not really, responsible for everyone's stuff for just a period of time. So that's the wind down time, but there's other things here that I think could help too.
Okay. Well, please tell them, because there is not one woman that I know. And sorry, guys, you guys pop Ambien and you're good to go. I can only speak from experience with my sweetie, because that's his way. Like he's like, boop, and he's done. And I'm like, well, this is going to be a fun 7 hours sitting here watching you sleep.
So frustrating when you
I've got more videos of him like sleeping and snoring and pictures of him sleeping everywhere all over the globe. And I'm always the one up taking the pictures of everybody else sleeping. So what are some other tools or some other ideas for us that we could be using to help us better sleep?
Okay. So another thing I heard in what you were saying, which you, like the rest of us, right? We all do this stuff and we have to figure out what works for us. But you said my bed office, right?
Oh, yeah.
So one of the main things we want to do is use the bed only for sleep. So what that means is no reading, no watching TV, no working, all that stuff, no looking at your phone, just in bed. So people get
okay. Well, and stopping. Come on, Anne. I mean,
right?
On,
yes,
Annie.
That intimacy, all that.
Okay,
sex,
all right.
Good, in bed.
Sure. All of the bedroom things that we need to do, but leave everything else at the door. That's nuts, especially the reading thing.
So, but I do this work with people who, they'll find it's not necessarily the whole bedroom. It could be. And it's not the phone. It's not like we don't have to worry about I can't look at my phone right before bed. I don't think that that's necessarily the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the association with bed with something else other than sleep.
Sure.
So
okay. That's fair.
This comes from the idea of conditioned response, that when we get in bed, We want to feel relaxed. Like, this is where I sleep. So your brain connects bed equals sleep, right? And when we do all those other things in bed, we loosen that connection, and that association starts to become weaker. And the bed then becomes a place where I worry, where I work, where I look at my phone, where I do all the other things, not sleep, right? So we want to try to keep this as clear of an association as we can. So that means in the nighttime, even in the beginning of the night, in the middle of the night, or in the morning, you want to look at your phone, which we all do. I mean,
I
we're
need to see
human.
what all of my girlfriends' reels were at 2:00 in the morning, because that's all we're doing. Is I wake up in the morning and I've already sent like 20 reels to my best girlies, and they've done the same. And now we're laughing, and now I'm up, and now we're talking, and we're like, why can't we sleep?
Right.
Well, you just sent me
Exactly.
17 really funny videos about dumb girls doing stupid crap and drinking wine. Of course, I'm going to laugh and stay awake.
Right. Right. You should look at those reels, right? At 2 a.m, I think there's other things that could be better, but in bed, if you start to train yourself that I'm going to look at all the reels in bed, it's not going to help you. But so let's say you're up, you wake up at your normal time. Many people out there just sit in the bed and look at their phone for an hour before they even do anything.
Yeah.
You can do that, just not in bed. Move to the couch, move to a chair. If you set up a nice chair next to the bed, it at least gives you this separation. So you're not in bed, like associating it with being awake. Right. And so that's the goal with that.
Yeah. The challenge that I have with that piece, and to just be totally honest, is it is really hard for me with my legs in particular, because that's where the majority of my pain is, in my legs. I mean, it's everywhere, but the heaviest part is my feet and my legs. Is I have to be in bed for about 2 hours before I can even put my feet on the ground. And so
Okay.
what do I do for 2 hours at 3:00 in the morning? Because I got to get out of bed. Well, lately I have to get out of bed way earlier than I normally do. That's for another show. But now I'm having to get out of bed by 4:00 in the morning. So that means I've got to get up at about 2, but I can't do anything between 2 and 4 right now, is what you're basically saying, which I don't even know how to do that. So in these kind of places where you're dealing with, and I'm going to speak to the CRPS people that I know in my life, they're laying in bed and we're listening to podcasts, we're listening to meditation, we're listening to all these things to at least try to distract our brains to a certain extent from the pain that we're feeling and to keep us occupied. Otherwise, I'm in here going, this is it. I'm effed for the rest of my life. This is how it's going to be. I'm never going to walk my dogs again. All that negative narrative that I was talking about earlier. Now it's like, well, what do I do at that time? So what do you do when you're immobile and I can't actually go sit in a chair by the side of my bed unless it's my wheelchair,
Yeah.
which I don't want to be in right now because that makes me even more sad and sleepy,
And it's not comfortable. It's not a comfortable place.
Yeah.
And so this kind of set of rules can be adapted because, there are people, let's say in their 90s who have mobility issues, who do this, who do CBT-I, who have problems sleeping, which can be helped in their 90s. There's, a lot of research that shows this. So this is, but they are, potentially have fall risks and other things that, make it very difficult to get up and get out of bed. So even for you, even moving to the other side of the bed and sitting up gives you some space that's like, this is that side of the bed. I can lie down over there. That's where I sleep. This side, if I just shift and sit up, because you want to give yourself a cue. This is where I'm awake. That is where I'm asleep.
Okay,
right?
that's fair.
Sometimes it works for people to have like a comfy chair next to the bed or something like that, where they can, or even honestly, like a yoga mat on the floor, or,
I was thinking even just now, like a bean bag would be super cool. Like they've got some really nice, not like cheapy, gross ones, but they've got really nice, like sitting apparatus that supports your body, that helps you feel a little bit better. And I also was reading something the other day and prepping for our episode today about swapping sides with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And asking my sweetie, hey, can we switch sides of the bed and see if, because I have always slept on the same side of the bed, even with my ex-husband, and same with him, with his ex-wife. So it's like, okay, we've been on the same side of bed for all this time, and we've adapted our bodies to sleep like that. Like maybe let's shift that and throw some wrenches into our brain to kind of trick our brain to think that we're in a whole nother sleeping environment. Because why is it that when I go to a hotel and I spend the night there, I'm able to get like a really nice, deep amount of sleep, big picture, but I'm home and I can't?
Because you associate it with stress.
That's right.
Because
Yep.
your brain knows this is where I worry and this is where I have had this whole history of negative thoughts, stress, can't sleep, insomnia, all that stuff. Your brain remembers that. And it when you like, so this is what happens to a lot of people is the hotel thing. Yes, that's absolutely the case. Some people have it reversed. I sleep great at home, not in a hotel.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
We're all different.
Yeah.
But another really common thing is lying on the couch watching TV. I'm falling asleep, like exhausted, ready to, and then I move to the bed and I'm wide awake.
Yep. It's the worst.
That's
You're
right.
like,
It's because of
head
that
down,
association.
all the whole thing. Yeah, exactly. And my sweetie, he's in broadcast journalism, specifically in news. So it is the news that's on. And so we've kind of set up some boundaries and rules around that piece so that he's not watching CNN from the second that he's, sitting on the couch in the evening until he goes to bed. Like, give me a break. We don't, the same story. We know what's happening with all of the malarkey in our world right now. Like, can we at least give that a beat? So that's shifted for him a lot, which has been very healthy for him and by proxy healthy for me. Cause I'm like, I'm not going to be in the room. I can't watch the news like this. Like I can't do that. And then in bed, no news. So it's only been, yeah. And even though it's a small thing, it's a big deal for our family unit, right? That the news isn't in every single room all day long in our alerts. I even turned off news alerts on my phone. So I wasn't getting like breaking news from CNN. Like, well, it's always breaking news from CNN. Of course it's the same stuff, but trying to do a little bit of that. I did things like changing the warmth of the tone on my phone and turning off certain notifications. I'm really good at doing do not disturb on my phone too. I'm not here anymore. And that was in all of these small things. I've been making these changes and shifts to work towards what you're talking about doing. So, because it is hard work, it is a decision that we have to make, to a cognitive decision to say, you know what, I'm going to change this and break this behavior because all I know is this. All I know is being an insomniac. So my brain is like, whoa, holy cow, you're throwing in something new here. And my brain's like, whoa, that's nuts. We don't normally do this. And it's actually been helpful for me changing my hours that I work to waking up way early and going to bed super early. I've been doing it for 2 weeks and I've been sleeping for 6 hours, which I never do. I'm normally 2 hours a night. I've got 6 hours under my belt for the past couple nights. Not too shabby because I changed. Yeah. Well, I took some of your advice.
That's another thing, right? So that I think it's another point that is important to make when we're talking about sleep is what your body needs to sleep is what's called sleep drive, right? It's this natural, innate feeling of I need to go to sleep right now. So, if you've ever pulled an all-nighter, which happens, still, but certainly like when we're younger, it happens all the time.
I know, right? We're able to go out until 2:00 in the morning and then go to Denny's and get like a bunch of pancakes and eggs and then go take a final and ace it. Like, what? Where's that girl?
Exactly. But after you do that, right, you feel, or if you take a flight, that's like an all-night flight, let's say, you get there, you feel sleepy, right? That sleepy feeling is what we need in order to sleep. So this is called our sleep drive, right? And it works with circadian rhythm, with the light dark cycle. But I think what you're describing by changing your schedule is that you're boosting your sleep drive. So typically, if we can't sleep, let's say you have a night where you cannot fall asleep till much later than normal, you might decide, well, then I'm just going to sleep late, or I'm just going to kind of sleep when I can. Don't usually get up anyways and just go through the day. You try to accommodate. You might take a nap. You might try to sleep later. You might go to bed early. But in fact, sleep drive is your friend when it comes to like insomnia. You need to have a very, very high sleep drive in order to sleep that night. You have to have that. So the more regular and consistent your schedule is, especially with wake time, you wake up at the same time every day, no matter what, you will boost your sleep drive. It'll make you feel more sleepy. So no matter if you get 2 hours or 6 hours, if you get up at the same time, you're going to have a higher sleep drive.
Okay. I mean, and I've been very disciplined throughout my whole life, no matter what, on my alarm going off, getting up, taking a shower, putting on my makeup. I've worked from home for 24 years and I always make sure I'm showered and I'm ready to go like I'm going into an office. I've done that forever. But I also can run to Trader Joe's and throw in laundry while I'm working, right? So, I've got that model dialed in. But what I've found with everything that's happened with my health, that model has shifted. And I still think that that's the model that I'm in and I'm not anymore. And so it's really retraining not just my brain to sleep, but it's also giving myself like some grace in like, Lyndsay, you didn't accomplish everything that I said I was going to accomplish today, but I also accomplished like 75,000 more things than most people do in that day. And I did it in a wheelchair or I did it through or whatever, And so not that I'm patting myself on the back because that's not at all what I'm doing, but I'm just, I exercise this, like I've got this tenacity. I've got this grit. I can get through anything. Great, Lyndsay, but it's also keeping you sick. It's also
that's
keeping me sick.
Before.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And so that's doing me no service. And it's also not servicing the people that are around me in my life that love me because I'm so drained all the time. And I'm giving them just a little bit of me instead of giving me what they should because I'm so drained and I'm just so tapped out,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard feeling. And it's when you're pushing and pushing and pushing, it's easy to get into that drained mode. And I think the thing about the sleep and the schedule is sometimes we feel like, yeah, I do that, but how often? So a certain percentage of people will sleep late on the weekends or will figure out ways to accommodate, to kind of add in sleep during the day or whenever is, just they accommodate that need. And what I try to coach people to do is when I look at their sleep diaries, I calculate an average total sleep time. So let's say it's 6 hours, which is very normal, healthy amount of sleep, actually, even though we're not told that.
Yeah,
we're not
right.
told
of course,
that,
like,
but
you're supposed to be 8 to 9 hours. We're also supposed to eat in a pyramid, by the way.
Right. 6 hours is totally fine if that worked for your body. We're all different, right?
My sweet spot is actually 5 hours. If I get 5, I am like, oh my God, don't even get in my way. I am on fire.
Well, that's great then.
Yeah.
And that is the case for some people, right? I think typical is more like something between 6 and 9, but there are people who do fine with 5 hours. So give yourself a window, right? If it's going to be 5 hours, if it's going to be 6 hours, that's your window. And then you're not in bed lying there the rest of the time. You can sit in your chair and relax and do your kind of routine to get yourself ready for the day or to feel like you can put your feet on the ground.
Sure. Okay.
But your window is your window. That's the time that you sleep. And it's hard. That's the hard part is every day your alarm goes off. Let's say it goes off at 5 a.m. Let's say you go to bed at 4 a.m. and you fall asleep finally at 4. You get up at 5. That's what you do.
You were saying it was going to be hard.
Right. So you tolerate the feeling of being really, really sleepy because you know that sleep drive is going to be really high the next night. And you don't go to bed early. You go to bed at your time and you sleep within your window. And it's going to be a lot easier because your sleep drive is high, right? And that's what we want every night. And as you get into it, so if it's 1 hour that you sleep, okay, that really sucks, but
well
you
said.
get through the day. It really sucks. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
But you tolerate it, right? Like you muddle through. I think we're worried about all the bad things that are going to happen if we're overtired or if we don't get a good night's sleep. And that's what we have to try to let go of. I think you started at the beginning saying sleep is so important. It is, but we're hit over the head with how important it is. And it's putting so much pressure on all of us to do it right and to get it all perfect. And we can't do that when we feel so much pressure, right? So
yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Let's say you have an early flight or a meeting or something and you have to be up early versus a day where it's just a regular day. Your brain perceives that and says, oh no, I have to get a good night's sleep. I have to get a good night's sleep. I have to do this. And then it just ruins the whole night because you're worrying about it so much. And if you just really go into it is, you know what? If I sleep tonight, great. If I don't, I'm going to get through the day. I'm going to be okay. And I will have super high sleep drive for the next night. I will get through this. It takes some of that pressure off, or putting all the pressure on yourself to do things a certain way. It's so anxiety provoking.
I know. I mean, all the things you say, I'm just sitting here shaking my head and just going, it's so accurate. Like even like the travel thing, we can all identify with, we have a flight in the morning out of LAX or wherever we're flying out of. I know for us, getting to LAX is a big pain in the butt, and with LAX takes forever, and especially when you're flying international, and then you've got to add my wheelchair component to it, and then you got your bags, and then we've got TSA, and we got and it's like, oh my gosh. And the night before, you're like, did I pack everything? What do I have? What am I forgetting? And then we're just and then I don't want to miss my flight, and I mean, it just goes on and on and on of the worry.
Mm-hmm. So you know what? Let that go. You may not have a good night's sleep before you travel. And you know what? You're going to survive. You're going to get on the plane. You're going to get where you need to go. Nothing terrible is going to happen. I mean, I can't say that with certainty, but most likely, that's not going to happen. If you were flying the plane, this would be a different conversation.
That is very true. Right. Yes. Thank you for saying. If you are a pilot, this is not for you.
There's ways to do this with pilots, but the point is you have to muddle through the day, right? And changing the way we think about it so we want to do the things, set up our schedule to make sure that we have high sleep drive, that we are sleepy and ready to sleep, and that you're only getting in bed when you're like about to pass out. But also to let go of the fear of not sleeping. If you don't sleep, then I'm not going to feel great. Okay. Isn't that the case other days too? Right.
Right. Yeah. I feel like poop all the time. So, I mean, it's just another day, but I like the idea of the setting the alarm. And that's what I've had to kind of do. And there's another gal that has an episode coming out, and she talks specifically about this exact thing with our brains. As you change what you're used to doing, to kind of like shift your brain into like reframing and rewiring the connections that are going on in your brain for sleep, for anxiety, for depression, for all these different things, to put in a whole new game plan. And the shift for me, helping to support my sweetie with his show, has been a very, very early morning shift. And so with that, I've had to set the alarm early and go to bed earlier. And I will tell you, that's been over the past 2 weeks. And I'm sleeping more because of this. And
because of sleep drive.
You proved this doctor's point that I was just mentioning, Dr. Rebecca Jackson. She's a badass, but it proved that point, that everything she told me to do and the few things that you told me to do on our meet and greet, I immediately put into place, and I have been sleeping short for big picture, but 6 hours for me is like, whoa. Unless I'm just dead to the world or sick, and those days don't count, right? But like on a normal day, for me to get 5 or 6 hours is unheard of. So wow. And that's been 2 weeks. It's in 2 weeks, Annie. It hasn't been like months and months of me trying this. I took what you said and what this other doctor said, and I've put them into place already. And I'm seeing a difference in such a short span of time. And it's hard. It's like grossly hard. You weren't kidding, sister. You were not kidding.
But it can be quick. Your body can adjust quicker than you think it will.
So impressed. I am so impressed with our ability.
I'm really glad.
Yeah. Now, we haven't covered the pain reprocessing therapy that you do, PRT, and I'd like to discuss it. I know we're going a little bit longer than planned, but can we talk a little bit about pain reprocessing therapy and how that is coupled with what you do for sleep? And then we can hit the dusty trail after that. Even though I want to talk to you for like 2 more hours.
So pain reprocessing therapy it's really all about, like what you were talking about, is rewiring those signals. But this is for pain, right? So the idea is that these neural pathways in your brain, when we have pain, we really connect it with fear, right? So the brain perceives pain. So whether the pain starts because of an actual injury, which happens, right? Or just because of a stressful experience, which also can happen.
Yep.
But then it starts to, like what I was talking about with sleep, with the conditioned responses, pain becomes a conditioned response, right? So anytime I feel stress, I feel pain. And then when I feel pain, I feel more stressed. And not only stressed, I feel fear and frustration and anger and all the negative emotions that drive our cortisol and adrenaline, right? So what we want to do is change our experience with pain to more neutral. It's not going to be positive. Pain is not positive, right?
No,
For
but it
most of
is our
us,
bodies talking to us that something's
it
wrong.
is.
Yep.
Something's wrong. Too
Something's
much.
not right here.
You're right. Warning. It's a warning sign.
You should
right?
not feel like you're walking on Legos and rocks and hot coals and broken glass. It's just like something that you should not be doing, Lyndsay. But that's what I'm in.
Absolutely.
And I know I'm not. I know it's in my brain. I do not physically
but
have
it's
rocks
real.
in my socks.
No, but it's real pain. It comes from, it's generated by the brain. So I think about it less as being psychological, more as being neurological.
Yeah, 100%. Right? Yes, agree. Yeah.
It's a real physical pain generated by a process in the brain. So we want to start to feel the sensation of pain and relate to it differently. And this is a really hard practice because pain is discomfort, right? And it's a sensation that we don't feel like is positive. So we wince and we brace and we tense around it and we react to it. And that the thing that I think most people don't realize is that makes pain worse because the more we want the pain to go away, right? What we resist persists. Have you ever heard that? Yeah, I know.
Unfortunately, a lot. Nicely done. Bravo for that. But it's true. It's 100%
totally true.
Yeah. I didn't
because
just fall
the
up
more
the
we
turnip truck.
want it to go away, right? The more we want it gone, the more it's going to stick around because our brain is saying, oh, that thing, oh, that must be really bad. Like and it thinks it's warning you, right? Your brain is like, oh, just create, kind of create and exacerbate pain as a warning sign. So if you think, oh, that pain, it's so bad, your brain knows it, right? It's registering and it's going to continue every time I feel that danger, danger. Let's hike up the fear. Let's hike up the stress, tension. So, starting to unravel that, practicing through doing these like kind of meditative practices that I do with clients, seeing the pain as neutral. Now, this is hard, right? Because it doesn't feel neutral now. But as you're sitting here talking to me, you have other sensations, right? You're sitting up, your back is, your stomach, your abs, they're all working to hold you up. But it's the pain in your legs and your feet that feels awful. That sensation is tagged in your brain as unbearable, negative, as, frustrating, fearful, all those things. And so we want to remember there's plenty of other sensations that we have in the body that aren't tagged that way. And it's a process to untag them. So that's kind of the gist of it. There's other therapies that are related to this that kind of delve into the emotional experience. So like the idea of repressed anger in particular, and, trauma, repressed anger and trauma being a source of pain, like not allowing yourself to really feel it and go there for so long, pushing it away. It shows up in the body. It is going to show up in the body. And I think you can probably relate to that idea.
I can. And the book, The Body Keeps Score, we talk about it often on this show. When I read it, which was very, very early on in my stages of starting this show, I read that book and I was like, wow, no wonder. No wonder.
We hold it, right? And we hold on to those experiences. And, it's hard because I think a lot of us as kids learn it's not okay to express sadness. It's not okay to express anger.
Yeah.
It's not okay to let those things out. And so it's stored and it's built up and it comes out somehow. That's how I think of it. It comes out as these like physical sensations. Some people it's, intense fatigue, and other people it's migraines, and other people it's back pain or CRPS or, and there are ways that these things come back and show up in the body.
Yeah. I want to cry, which I've grabbed my tissue because I was ready for it to come out because it is sad, but you give hope. And that is where we always end an episode on the show, is with hope, because I'm certainly not a giver-upper, and I'm not giving up for you, my listeners. I'm not giving up on me. I'm not giving up on guests. I refuse to do it. Is it hard? Hell yes, it is. Is the work going to be challenging? Yeah, of course it is. But what we're doing isn't working. Then we have to change it, and it's going to be hard, and we have to find people like you. And I know that I'll put some things into show notes and some tools and some resources that you've provided me, and maybe a couple other things as well that I found in the importance of sleep and our brain. So where can we find you? I know you've got a webinar on chronic pain that I can send our listeners to, but we can find you online on Instagram, your website, LinkedIn, Facebook, at DC Metro Therapy. So please take a look at that. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave our listeners with before we hit the dusty trail? And I'm sorry that I can't talk to you longer.
I just want people to feel hopeful because, it doesn't really matter how long we've had these, experiences. They can change. We know this about the brain, that the brain has plasticity and it can change and then we can grow. It is hard. It's uncomfortable, but yeah, I think there's a lot of reason to be hopeful.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful to talk to you. And you definitely have given me hope in the sleep world. And even just the few things that you had me apply in such a short span of time, I couldn't wait to do this episode with you today because I was like, I'm going to tell her that I slept.
I'm so glad.
In such a nothing amount of time. Was it hard? Sure. But I'm like, I couldn't even believe it that by taking a few things you told me to do, how quickly I was able to just shift it. Am I perfect at it? Hell no, of course not. But at least I started and I left that fear a little bit behind me because you're right. It's like you attribute, like I go in there and I'm not going to be able to, it's going to be a gross place to be the whole entire night. And you bring those negative connotations with you and leave them at the door. Leave them at the door. Mm-hmm. Thank you again so much for being on the show with me. I really appreciate it. It's been so wonderful to get to know you. You can find her once again at dcmetrotherapy.com and follow her on all of her socials.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. You are exclusively invited to share this incredibly to be sleepy VIP pain journey together. Let's get to the heart of how to heal with you by my side. If you know anybody that is crazy and wild like myself who cannot sleep, they're fearful of sleep, they're in pain, what have you, please send them our way to Annie and myself. We would love to be able to help them in any way that we possibly can and connect you with our heartfelt stories for this show. We've all been through challenges. We've got all kinds of challenges in front of us, but we need to sleep, guys, so that we can get through all of it. Please follow the Pain Game Podcast wherever you digest your podcast content. We will be there. Visit us at thepaingamepodcast.com and follow us on all the socials. Thanks for listening, my little VIPs. Catch you on the other side.